Hello and welcome back to Fusion 360 The Basics, Part 3. My name is Roman and we're going to be going over what we've done in the previous part, Part 2, of our design right here. So we created a 2mm height sketch rectangle and a 1mm height sketch rectangle. Just extruded them easily using the extrude tool, which I believe, yep, the bind for that is E. So by simply going to E during any point, you can instantly go into extrude menu and extrude things instantly. Pretty instantaneous. So, in the previous part, or the end of it, I mentioned that we are going to be going over ways to turn something like this into an actual usable object. So, there's tons of ways to do this using the tools in the Create section. So, we're going to be starting off. We're going to be skipping over components since this is going to be useful once we get into creating actual working mechanisms or like plans for mechanisms. But for now, you can just turn bodies into components. That's basics for that. We're going to be going over this more in depth later, as well as derive, since this is more for the form tab. We're going to be going over that later. So extrude, we went over this. Simply by pressing E, you can extrude a shape or a sketch or a shape's face up or down, multiple directions. And now this is another, this is going to be the actual other one we're going to go over, is revolve. So click on revolve, and it's kind of the same menu you get when you click on extrude, but instead we're going to have stuff like angle or to a certain point or full revolve or type, and of course multiple sides. So by clicking on something like this, and then the axis that we're going to rotate over. That's pretty interesting from going from extrude to selecting an axis, but don't worry, it's pretty easy. Any curve or edge counts as an axis. So for this, we're going to be doing this, which, yeah, no, stuff like this happens a lot while using the revolve tool, but don't be alarmed. Simply just go back and select this, and yeah, so you turn something that was originally just a flat surface into a very, very curved surface. So the original was just flat like this, but using revolve, you can set it as an angle and go in the direction you want it to go. So you can either go like, this is it, like all the way like this direction, or just like half. For this, we're going to leave it at 25 degrees. Feel free to change it up, do whatever you want with it. But for now, yep, we're going to keep it as join and click OK. So, oh, looks like it went in the wrong direction, which is great because now we can go back and use the revolve tool to turn it in the other direction. So going into the revolve tool again, selecting this, and the axis, of course this, we're going to be going and bringing this back. Looks like there's an issue with how the axis is portraying itself, so I'm going to leave it like this, and we're just going to stick it like that, which is actually a good segue into the next segment that we're going to be going over real quick. Like I went over the lines and easy hotkeys for that. We're going to be going over how to move bodies. So yeah, this is upside down. If we're trying to make a door stop, which is something I mentioned in the previous video, this is upside down. This is not going to be a very fun way to work on something from this angle, especially not like trying to view it from upside down. It has like got the top shadow on it, which is kind of disorienting. So we're going to flip this upside down. So we're going to go over to bodies. We're going to right button click on it. So there's a lot of options here, but the only option we need to use as of this moment is moving copy. So selecting moving copy, and we should get this bar and this. So simply by going down to this area right here. So there's a lot of things here as well. But most of these, you can change the move type. You can change what you are moving if you want to select a new type of object in the middle of moving something else. And you can select the pivot that it moves on. We're not going to be messing with any of those. We're just going to be going over to this down here, selecting the axis and rotating it back around. So it should be in the upright position from where it was previously. So now, deselecting that, going back to this, we're going to be going over here and moving this up a little bit. So these arrows, same axes as the camera up here. We're going to be moving this one up. You can drag it in, up direction, of course. And this one over here, which moves it to the right. So we have our original location, just flipped upside down. And we're going to click OK. So now we have it at where we want it, and we're going to be continuing on with turning this into an actual functioning object. In this case, a doorstop. So we're going with a little touch on it. So we're going to be deselecting that, going back to select. And alright, so what do we need for a doorstop? Of course, we need a part to go under the door, or keep it there from the door. So from here, we're going to be going over to the extrude tool and extruding this bottom piece out. So from the bottom, just selecting this face here, and we're going to be extruding it out, setting it to join, and pulling it till it reaches the exact same as the other, and we're going to click OK. So joining, as you could see from before, joining made it go from there would be like a degree of separation, like a small line between it. Oh, let me get the exact face. A small line between both of them on the right, but simply by using the extrude tool and bringing it to join, or selecting it as join, you get a very, very just already connected, very smooth object right there. So now that we have it together and flipped the right direction for a doorstop, we're going to be going back to create, and we're going to be going past here, and we're going to be trying out the loft tool. So for the loft tool, we're going to be, this is going to be kind of complicated, so if you need some, there's going to be two new parts introduced in this, two new like styles for it. You can go back, or you can pause it if you need to. But for this, we're going to be using a sketch to determine the height, or the certain area where we want it to loft itself. So the loft tool's kind of complicated because you have to select multiple objects at once. But for this, we're just going to be going to rectangle, selecting this face. Of course, this is the curved face. We're going to be just creating a small rectangle going on it, and we're going to be stopping that sketch. So the sketch is done. It's already on that face. If we turn this, turn the rest off, and turn this sketch on, you get this. Oh, of course, those lines can be deleted just by selecting them and hitting the delete key. Those show up for angling purposes, but they can be easily deleted. So now that we have this here, we are going to be rotating towards it, keeping it. Of course, the upper right cube, very helpful. We're going to be getting a good angle on it, and we're going to be going to the loft tool. So how the loft tool is going to work is you're going to select one, and then you're going to select another profile. If they have so this will tell you if they're connected or not, or you can change it to the direction you want to put it. But for this, we're going to be selecting these two together. But for a loft to work, they need to have a separation part of them. So they need to be separated. So we're going to be selecting this sketch from all angles. This is kind of hard if you're doing something like this. You can also turn off bodies if you need to select the sketch, just by shift-clicking the corners. Then we can turn bodies back on. Right button clicking, and clicking on moving copy. So the same as the body that we did, we're bringing this to the right, and we're just going to be moving this up around 4 or 5 millimeters, keeping it in that angle, but still off of the sketch body itself. We're going to click OK, or the body itself. So the sketch should be floating in the air, which is kind of a cool sight to see. You can turn sketches from just laying on the ground or on bases, bodies, just bringing them up. So going back into create and loft. We're going to be selecting one profile, which is going to be this, and the second profile is going to be this. So simply by doing that, it brings it up to the point that you selected. So this would be the shape. This can be done with bodies, and this can be done with sketches, which is very useful in both. We're just going to have it. We're not going to mess with anything else. Just bring it up there. These can be used to adjust the angle or like the smoothness of certain sides, which we're not going to do. Just going to keep it at that and click OK. So from a simple loft tool, it turned this shape into kind of like a diamond pattern, I would say, and brought it up to the body, creating from the 3D body itself up to where the sketch is. Just brought up all of these parts, just created it and with a degree of separation between them, formed a body in between them that is connected to both of them. So this is going to be a nice addition for that. And now we're going to be moving on to we're going to be moving on from create. We're going to be going over to the modify tab. So quickly before we get into everything else, the modify tab starts off with press pull, which is, I would say, it's kind of like extrude. You select a certain size or side, and then it allows you to either pull it in or press it out. It's kind of like a dual-sided extrude tool. So we're going to be just bringing this out a small amount. So clicking on press pull and just pulling that out a small amount. This is the exact size. You don't need to pull it that much, just a tiny bit. And then we're going to be going down in the press pull, which is, of course, modified or automatically keybound to the Q button. And we're going to be going down to the second option, which is fillet. So this is a very, very useful tool for lots and lots of reasons. For this one, we're going to be going over for this. We're just going to be adding a piece so that our doorstop that's being created does not get caught or anything. So it just lays flat and slides right under the door that you're going to be using it on. So click on that, and you get a lot of options up here. As usual, a lot of Fusion tools have multiple options for them. So we're not going to be doing a rule fillet. That's more for you need an exact size or anything, but this should be a relatively like fair. You'll know what kind of size you need for this. So the type of fillet, and we're going to be going over and selecting this. So this edge right here is what we're going to be using. Bring that over. So yeah, just selecting this. So kind of like the extrude tool and the press pull tool, this has another arrow going down on it with a radius that you can set it as. And by pulling it down, you'll see that it turns it from being a complete square and bends it, kind of like how the fillet tool works with sketches, except this is with physical objects. So bringing this down, this can bring it, you can get to a pretty high degree of separation and flatness between it. But for this, we're just going to go to just test it out. Bring that to around 12 millimeters. So give that a nice thin size to it. Bring everything like that. You can go to extreme amounts with this. It takes a lot to actually make it unusable. But for this, we're just going to stick with 12. And clicking OK. You can, before you do that, you can also change the type you want. You can make it be setback, which provides kind of more like a more expansive type of smoothing onto it. But for this, rolling ball should be fine with the corner type. And you just go ahead and click OK. Done. It's been turned into a rather flat-looking location, or it turned that location into a rather flat-looking fillet. So, also in this, below fillet, a fillet, of course, is bound to the F key naturally, but you can change that, of course, using the options next to it. There's the chafter tool, which is kind of like the fillet tool. Instead of making it rounded, it makes it kind of square. So for this up here, we're not going to be going through with this, but just an example turns it square. Of course, this is the error that shows up sometimes if you mess up or you go too far. So you'll know, it'll tell you the error. It can be created at the requested size because, of course, it can't because of the angle. But something like this, it just creates a square instead of a flat rounded surface. Like this one's more rounded and this one's definitely more square. So just in case you need to make something like that. So it's looking pretty nice right now, but I think we should add something onto it right about here. So let's go back into the sketch tool and clicking on text. So we, while we're in this, of course it's a sketch tool, text is, so we can select the face we want to build it on. So we're going to be selecting this right here. And it'll bring it over to us, and now we have the sketch tool equipped. So we're going to be selecting a point where we want the text to take place. I'm going to be selecting right here. And we're going to be writing, I'm going to do my initials, which are RDD. Oh, that looks a little bit big. So, going through with Sketch. Another good thing to know, interruption of course, but another good thing to know is the Sketch Palette toolbars. If you have stuff that you don't want shown, you can just drag it down there or click this button and it'll shrink it down and shrink it back up. Just in case you know that you're already in the Sketch tool and you're like, I'm working on this. You can just switch that over. So, of course, this text is a little big, so I'm going to bring it down using the height option to around 5 millimeters. Looks a lot better. And I'm going to bold it and change the font. All of this is very straightforward. and very simple to do. So we're going to be changing the text. This is the center point for it. We're going to keep it at that center point. Clicking OK. And now we're going to click on the text itself and moving it right to about the center. Doesn't have to be exact. And clicking OK. Of course, you can move sketch options, and it'll underline what you have selected in the certain bars that you have it. And just click OK. So I put my initials on there. You can put whatever you want if you're going along with this design. But for now, another very, very useful thing to know, I believe I mentioned this in the previous video, is that the text tool is actually creating a completed line shape, or completed shape, like how a rectangle is a completed shape when you put it all together, like one of these faces. This text is already a completed shape. So if you go to something like the extrude tool, click on that, it is already a completed shape within that, and we can press it upwards and extrude it. So something like this is very cool. You can get text for certain angles of designs since it's already text. You can put it inside of things, of course. You can extrude and put it inside, and as long as it's set to cut, which is what we're going to be doing. Very, very cool that text has that option about it. We're going to click on, going out of that, clicking on the text, and bringing it down 1 millimeter to cut into it, and clicking OK. So, very cool looking. It just cuts directly into it, leaving a little pieces where everything else there, a bunch of faces inside of there. But yeah, initials on top of that. So a doorstop custom with my own initials on it, but your own initials on it if you're following along. And yeah, no, this really cool thing, just simply made just by using a bunch of tools. So gone over, we use the revolve tool, the fillet tool, the how could I forget, the loft tool, and by using the text option in Sketch and extruding it down, we made a really quick custom doorknob with little to no effort, or well, not little to no effort, little to no time. It's fairly quick how to make something like this. So going back, using the timeline tool back there, we started off just by creating a simple sketch such as, wonder where it's, there we go. A simple sketch, something like this, and we turn that, just by using the sketch tool and putting it into a dual-sided square, we turned it into something like this, which is pretty fantastic, just with basic Fusion knowledge and tools. So this is going to conclude part 2, and in part 3, I'm going to be going over the selection. This concludes part 4, and this concludes part 3, and in the next part I'm going to be going over the rest of the modified tools and a little more into the Create tab and learning about the things we can do with that. My name is Roman, and this is Fusion 360 Basics, signing off.